As a parent, I often find myself in the position of having to explain boys to my daughter. She wants to know, why are boys so weird? Why were the boys who were so nice last year, who were really good friends and really fun to play with, now suddenly such jerks? What happened to them? Why do they argue all the time now? Why do they have to keep getting into fights? One of the curses of doing what I do is that I can't give her the easy answer. So I can't just tell her, well, boys will be boys, because instead my inner educator kicks in. And I tell her that boys this age are in masculinity training. They are being trained to be men by their parents and peers, by their local culture, and by the media. And that training is serious stuff. The man code is very strict on which behaviors are acceptable for men in training and which behaviors aren't. And all of the qualities that my daughter used to love in these boys, the way they were sweet and kind and caring and artistic or sensitive, are being recoded as girly. Now, some boys are strong enough and supported enough to retain their love of performance and art and talking about how they feel. But for some boys, particularly in my community, that's no longer safe because they get teased or humiliated. Now, as women, we don't always realize the process boys go through to become men, but we need to if we're going to love the men in our lives fully and well. Hi, I'm Amy Waterman. I'm a love expert here at yourbrilliance.com. And if you want weekly inspirational videos on life and love and being a woman, then click that subscribe button. In this video, I'm going to share with you one of the most interesting and revealing questions you can ever ask a man. There was only one time in my life when I was waiting to be a woman. And it was during those years leading up to puberty. Then I got my period, my body changed, and there was no going back because I was a woman. So for us, biology makes us into women, whether we want to be or not. But men don't get that clear biological demarcation between boyhood and manhood. Now, sure, they get taller and they fill out and their voices deepen and they grow all that body hair. But looking like a man is not sufficient to be a man because manhood is more of a concept than a biological state. Now, this is where the man code comes in. The man code determines what's manly and what isn't. The man code creates this hierarchy where some men are more of a man than other men. And that status is constantly shifting. So just because a guy is the man one day doesn't mean he can't lose that status the next. Being the man is a competitive sport. And many men feel pressured to live their lives within the constraints of the man code, which is why it's also sometimes called the man cage, because it keeps them from being free. Now, it's my hope that future generations of men will walk out the doors of the man cage and never look back. The fabulous English singer and style icon Harry Styles is leading the way, just like the Beatles did 60 years ago. But if you are dating or in a relationship with a man who grew up indoctrinated in the man code, you might find that his loyalty to the man code is even stronger than his loyalty to you. So the man code tells him, for example, that men aren't bothered with trivial things like feelings. And so when you come to him wanting him to share his feelings and listen to yours, he feels uncomfortable. This isn't what men do. Men focus on solutions to problems, not soft, sticky, illogical things like feelings. Now, some dating coaches will tell you that this is just how men are. Men are built this way. They're built to prefer logic over feelings, and you just have to learn to deal with it. Not true. Men have been trained to do this. They have been trained to set aside and discount and not value feelings. But in reality, men are every bit as emotional as we are. Little boys have just as much concern and empathy for others as little girls. But something happens to boys around the age of 5 or 6. They start to notice that some behaviors get them social approval, while other behaviors get them teased. And guess which behaviors get them social approval? You got it, the ones laid down by the man code. Boys begin to internalize the man code into a schema, which I call the man inside their head. So now they no longer need other people to police their behavior. They do it to themselves. They have this ideal man inside their head that's always looking down on them and judging their behavior as to whether it's sufficiently manly or not. Now, for some, the man inside their head tells them to always be striving for greatness, always give 110%, be responsible, be a leader. It helps them be the best that they can be. But for others, the man says things like, don't ever let yourself be enthralled to a woman. Emotions are for weaklings. Never allow disrespect. Never depend on anyone. And those commandments are harmful because they don't help him become his best self. You need to know what the man inside his head is telling him. One of the most important things you can do for the man you love is to learn about the man inside his head. What is that man telling him to do? Where is that man telling him that he falls short? Not, of course, so you could criticize him or challenge his beliefs, but so that you can understand him and why he sometimes chooses being a man over being loving to you. Now, for some couples, the man inside his head is like the third party in the relationship. He sometimes listens to the man instead of to his heart or to you. And for him, it feels like a matter of life or death. He cannot turn his back on the man because if he loses his manhood, what does he have left? Some women even lose the man in their lives to the man because the man tells him he can't do what she asks. He'll be emasculated if he goes to therapy. A real man doesn't change himself for his wife. It's tragic and it doesn't have to be that way. If you have a man in your life that you love very much, I've got a challenge for you. The next time you're feeling close and connected and you're sharing from the heart, ask him this. What does being a man mean to you? And if he's open to talking about it, you can draw him out further with questions like, who's the kind of man that you really look up to? How did you learn to be a man? What's the best part about being a man? What's the worst? What do you wish I understood better about men? Now, what I found in my own life is that men really do appreciate the opportunity to think about these questions. Many men understand intuitively that the man inside their head doesn't always give them good advice. They can hear what the man tells them to do, and they can choose to do something different. And those men make such wonderful partners. They embody the very best of what a man can be. So if you have the courage, start a conversation with your man tonight. Take really good care of yourself, and I will see you next time.